Hello everyone, I'm AJ Daughtry Krill here at Information Technology Academy, and I am on a quest to learn Python. So I have a very special guest with me today.
Hi everyone, my name is Kim. I am currently studying neurobiology with a certificate in Asian American Studies at the UW. And I know about Python because I have been working with ITA and I have tried to self-teach myself various coding languages.
Awesome. So it's time to teach other people. Today we're going to be talking about math and numbers in Python. It's a great way to get going because it's a little bit intuitive, right? If you've ever used a calculator, we're going to be using Python as a calculator, but it's a really cool calculator, right? All right. So what we'll cover is data and code and why we need to work with data, number types. Can you just briefly, what are the different number types we're going to talk about?
So there's 3 number types we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about integers, we're going to be talking about float, and we're going to briefly mention complex.
Okay, integers, float, and complex. I'm excited. And then basic math operations, adding, subtracting, exponents, and more. And then we'll finish with more math operations, the more complex stuff like sine and cosine.
Yeah,
and stuff.
so the more math stuff that you would use in high school.
Okay. Well, let's jump in. So all about programming languages and why they need data. So we're going to talk later about data being in the form of strings or text and in numbers, and we're going to go deep into numbers right now. But what's your answer to this question, Kim?
So data, generally speaking, comes in the form of numbers and graphs and other visual forms of usage for data. So that's our focus today with numbers and math.
But why do we need data in programming languages?
Because your programming has to get content and information from somewhere to be able to do something. So when you go to program a language, you have a purpose, and you have to feed the code the information so it can be able to achieve your purpose.
Okay, so like in a game, some of the data might be, like if we're doing a Scratch game, a data might be like, what is your second level, and how many points do you have?
Yeah.
And how far along are you in the game?
Right.
Okay, but in more business uses of code, it's like, what were the figures from last month, and compare those to this month, and all that stuff. Okay, I think we got it. Anything else you'd add with that? It's an important topic.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I mean, we could go... I guess the sense of data that I've been using, most familiar with, that a lot of people end up using is registration sites. So when you go to even something simple as your social media, when you go and log in your information, that's data that's going somewhere and being stored on a server somewhere. And you don't see everything that's going on with it, but your data is being taken and it's stored somewhere else where it is secure, aka your information is on the web, but not everyone has access to it.
I see. Cool, thank you. So now just jumping into number types in Python. You already mentioned there's these 3, int, float, and complex. I'll do my best. Help me out. Integers are whole numbers. Does that include negative numbers?
Oh no, I didn't look that up.
We can double check in the code.
Yeah,
right?
we can check later.
Right here it only has positive numbers, 4, 20, 36, so no decimal, no fractions or anything like that. So an integer is just your common numbers. Float is a number with decimals, so that's pretty easy. I was a little bit worried about float, but it looks easy
the
enough.
main distinguishing feature between integer and float is that with float, you're going to use it with division, and you're always going to get a decimal number. And then integers do not include decimals.
Okay, and then you get, what is the thing called when you have like a remainder, when you do division with integers? Well, we'll get into that when we get into the code. I can't remember what it's called either. Complex numbers are real and imaginary numbers, so we definitely don't need to get into that too much, but it's nice to know that Python handles those.
Yeah.
So these are numbers like, mathematically they won't work, but if you pretend they work, you can still do math with them.
Yeah, so in this example of x plus yj, x is the real number part, and then y is the imaginary number part, assuming that you gave them values.
Like I remember one is like something with the square root of -1, I think, is an imaginary number.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no real answer to that question, but it could still sit there, because if you squared the square root of -1, you'd get -1.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that normally a calculator would give you an error on. Okay, so then we're going to talk about basic math operators, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So what's going on right here with division is it you can do all three? Or?
Yeah, so there's 3 types of divisions you can do. With division, like I mentioned before, you're always going to get a float. So even if it does divide and you get a remainder of 0, you're going to get a decimal number. And then for the double lines right here, you're going to get rid of the decimal number. You're just going to get the whole number.
Okay.
So basically, if you take 5 divided by 2, and you should get 2.5, but it's just going to chop off the 0.5 and you're going to get 2.
Okay.
The last one is mod, and it gives you what the remainder is.
Okay, mod was the word I was thinking of before.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the remainder. So 5 divided by 2 would be 2 mod 1? Or what would it be? We'll find out when we look at the code. And then squares, this is just exponents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then let's dive into the code before we look at the more math operators. And you have some things to show us today, so
Yeah.
let's take a look.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into idle to look at this stuff. So we'll start off with the basics. We'll do...
So we haven't seen idle yet. We've been using Eclipse.
Oh.
What's the difference between the two?
So idle is an interpreter, which means that as you're typing up your command and hit enter, it'll give you a response right away.
All right, let's see an example.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do 2 plus 2, and you should get 4. So when you hit enter, your answer is 4.
That's easy.
And
So-
if you were to do this in Eclipse, you would do 2 plus 2. Actually, you would have to do print 2 plus 2.
Can you just type that out? Let's see what that would look like in here. Print 2 plus 2? Because I think you can still do any Python code here.
Oh, I forgot the parentheses.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we still get 4.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only difference. You would just have to hit run after you type the print and do anything else you have in your code before it actually spits out the output
Yeah.
of 4. Cool, so I understand we're using this today because it's a lot quicker to just see the results.
Yeah, and you can definitely treat it as your typical calculator. So let's do something like 50 minus 5 times 6. So 5 times 6 is 30. 50 minus 30 is 20. So that should be the answer that we get. You can see 20 is our answer right
So it did the multiplication first.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because of your spacing, or could you have put a space after the 5?
I think the spacing does not matter.
Yeah, let's try that. It shouldn't. This is order of operations.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okay, excellent. What else do you got for us?
So now we can throw division into the mix. So we'll go ahead and we'll do the same thing. Just kidding. We're going to put some parentheses around it.
Back to the order of operations.
Yeah. 5 times 6. And then we'll divide all of this by 4.
So it's like 20 divided by 4.
Mm-hmm.
So 5.
But because we are doing division this time, you're going to get a float number. So it's actually going to be 20.0. Oh, just kidding. 5.0.
5.0, yeah.
Yeah.
So is the 0.0 is extra because we used a single slash right here. Okay, so let's keep moving on.
Sure. So moving on with division, we can do...
Oh, can we just try really quick 5 divided by 2, but with the double slash? Because we had talked about that in the PowerPoint.
5 divided by 2.
Oh, so it just gives you 2. It doesn't give you the mod.
So it drops the decimal.
Okay.
And like I mentioned before. So this is what you get, and it just drops.
And what about
the
the
0.5.
percentage sign that gives you the mod? 5 percentage sign 2.
That gives you 1.
Oh, that would give you the mod. Because it's 2 is the answer and then 1 is the remainder. But we can just move on to the other examples you had prepared.
Yeah, so the next example is going to be 17 divided by 3. And so that's going to give you a repeating 0.66.
Okay.
And similar to your calculator, it just kind of continues, and then when it runs out of digits, it'll round up for you.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to be similar to what we did above with the double slash right here, but I'll just drop the 0.66s
Oh, I see.
when you do that. So it's just
5.
5. Now, if we did the mod, it would give you 2. And what that means is 5 times 3 plus 2 will give you 17.
Yeah, so you add the mod after you reverse the division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so hit enter, let's see. Yeah, 17.
Mm-hmm.
So the mod is that extra plus. So before when I was saying...
so
oh.
my sister just did division.
Mhm.
And so basically if you did the long division, you would get that remainder at the top, and
Yeah.
that's the number that you would add.
That's right. This
And
is a lot
that's-
easier than long division.
Yeah.
So 5 divided by 2 with the percentage sign gives us 1 because it would be 2 would be just the double slash. So it would be 2 times 2 is
Mhm.
4 plus 1
Equals 5.
equals 5.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty simple.
Thank you,
so, with all of that, we're gonna do the squared now. So, basically, you add the two. What are those called? Stars.
Asterisks.
Asterisks. To get powers. So we start off with 5 squared, and that should give you 25.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then if you wanted, let's say 2 to a power of 7,
Mm-hmm.
you'd get 128.
So that's exponents.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 to the power of 8, we should get 256 if I know my binary well enough. Thanks. Woo.
Yay!
All right.
And then one other note about our powers is when we do decimals.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we do 1.1 to the power of 2. That should give us 1.21. But for some reason, this is what we get.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasoning behind that is numbers can't be computed quite exactly through Python because it does its best to get close enough to you, especially with the float.
Is this because it's mostly using binary, or do we not know the reason why?
I personally don't know the reason why, but I'm sure there is.
It's something that can be Googled. I bet
Yeah.
if someone were to Google 1.2100000002,
Mhm.
it would probably give you a good head start at least, if not the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on.
Yeah, so the next thing we are going to talk about is we are going to create some variables. So let's say you wanted to do some simple calculations to calculate like height and width, or you were given height and width and you wanted to calculate the area and the perimeter.
Mm-hmm. And so variables is going back to using data in programming?
Mhm.
Okay, so we can set a width for something?
Yeah, so
Cool.
we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna create a width. So to start off a variable, you give it a name. So in this case, we're calling our variable width, and then we give it a value. So our width is going to be 20. We hit enter, and basically now it's stored into here. You'll remember that your width is 20.
Okay.
And we're gonna create a height as well. And our height, we're gonna spice it up a little bit. We're gonna do something for it to calculate. So we're gonna do
Some math.
some math in it. So now we hit enter, it stores in there. We can check these values again by hitting width equals
So
20.
width is 20, I see.
Then we're gonna do height, and we get height is 45.
45. So it does the math and stores it as the number.
Right.
Okay.
And so now, let's say we were interested in finding the area. That would be width times height. We hit enter, and we get 900 as our area.
Well, how about that? So just multiplied 20 by 45, and the answer is 900.
Mm-hmm.
But you did it with words. You said width times height because that's actually variables. It could have been x or y,
Mhm.
correct? Okay.
Yep. And then, so if we were to find the perimeter, we would type perimeter. We could store our variable that we name perimeter is equal to, and perimeter is 2 times one side and 2 times the other side. So 2 times the width plus 2 times the height.
Yeah, it's like adding each of the sides of a square or rectangle.
Like this. Oh, I should probably spell width correctly. Oh, I've been
You
spelling
got it. No, you got it.
Yeah. Okay.
It looks funny to me, but it is spelled correctly. It's fun to double check someone else's work.
So yeah.
So because you have this equal signs right here, you're actually setting a new variable, perimeter, to equal 2 times the width plus 2 times the height.
Right. So when we hit enter,
Awesome.
nothing's going to show up because it just stored something into perimeter. But if we
Sure.
type out perimeter and hit enter, we are going to get the actual perimeter of our rectangle that we have.
Cool. And then, so now if we change the width to, let's say, 40, then the perimeter would get updated, correct? Because it's using variables inside of variables.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that.
Okay, let's try.
Width equals 40.
Mm-hmm.
Hit enter. And now perimeter.
It's probably 170? 130.
Is
Interesting.
130.
I know I threw this one as a curveball.
Oh, wait.
Try typing width. I wonder if width never got...
It's 40. I think it's, wait, hang on.
I have one more idea. My idea is if we go back and look at height, because we did the math here, and it's actual math, it changed height to 45, and it's 45 forever. It's not 5 times 9, it's just 45. So I wonder if perimeter did the same thing. It did the math real quick.
And then just kept it like
It kept it at 130, yeah. So I think in order to do this, we'd have to do a more complex thing that we're going to cover later, which is functions. So, phew, let's move on, and we'll wait for functions to figure out how we can update variables within variables.
Yeah, so we're actually going to head back to our presentation because we didn't.
Oh, we
finish
did
up
all the
everything.
things?
Yeah, we did all the things, and we did a
That's
little
awesome.
extra stuff too.
So we did addition, subtraction, multiplication, 3 types of division, and squares, and we had a lot of fun in between. So now we just want to talk about one more thing, which is basically, I think Kim's going to import. I love that. Import math. It's like a library or...
Yeah, so import is a library. In Python, there's a lot of libraries. Math is one of them. And essentially, the things that are housed in the math library are the mathematical functions that you learn in high school. So you have your logarithms, you have pi, you have sine, cosine, and tangent. You also have rounding up and rounding down. So we did our floats where we had the decimals and it kind of just chopped off the end. But if you were to do math and you were to round it correctly, you would have to round up or round down.
Gotcha. So let's try math pi before we import math, just so we can see that either it'll work or it won't work.
Sure.
Like if you accidentally imported it before we started talking or something. So I think it's, yeah. So how do we do that?
So it's math.py, you hit enter, and it says error.
It doesn't work.
So
So let's import some math.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and import math. Hit enter. It does the thing. We'll do math pi again. And this time it gives you an actual number for math pi.
Cool. So essentially now we can do you know how to do sine, for example?
Yeah.
I don't remember what that's for, to be honest. High school was a while ago.
We could do.
But it's for trigonometry and...
We do, I think, not pi. We could do sine of pi.
So it gives you what you're
ridiculous
calculating.
number, yeah.
Cool. Well, let's just quickly review what we did today and then see if there's any more we would like to say about it. But I had a lot of fun doing all the following. So we were talking mostly about math and numbers, and we talked about data and code, being able to store things for all sorts of purposes, the 3 different number types, integer, float, and complex.
Right. But you only, for the purpose of this class, you're only going to be trying to remember integers and floats, which should be pretty intuitive.
Yeah, integer, no decimal, float, decimal. Thank you. And then basic math operations is the main purpose, And then just for fun, we showed some more math operations.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Kim. It was great having you.
Yay, it was great being here.
Bye.